It's a Degrassi character that I've spent so much time trying to deconstruct. Basically, I've done case studies on him. I basically said why he's to blame for Rick's demise, what he should have done differently, why I couldn't let go of the fact that he was terrible as a principal, and why he's not the best principal in the Degrassi series and he's in the middle. But yeah, the Degrassi Reddit community kind of put me up to it inadvertently, but I have to say it. So, you want to talk about Raditch? I'll talk about Raditch. This is so you want to talk about Raditch. So, the past week, there's been a few things on the Degrassi Reddit about Daniel Raditch and how some people want to know if he was a good person or a bad person. So basically, before I get into my diatribe, two people did stuff on this last week. Last week was MNB doing a poll saying that in Degrassi Junior High, Raditch is a teacher, but in Next Generation, he's the principal. Which role suited him best? Out of 78 votes, 51 says he was more likable as a teacher and understanding, and 27 people said he seemed mean-spirited when he became the person in charge. But the weird thing is, it sounded like the same. As a teacher or as a principal? I don't know, I understand all that. However, one person by the name of Avarism put this down, saying, quote, I don't think either of these opinions fit. Raditch wasn't mean-spirited when he was principal. He just did his job according to the rules. He was too focused on following past protocols and not thinking any further certain instances. However, he was a better teacher than principal. So to say something on this is basically the fact that, this is 2004, by the way, when the show ended his tenure on the show. So yeah. If you notice that Rick tells Raditch that Jimmy has no qualms expressing that he doesn't like him, Raditch takes it as a face value. He's a concrete thinker, not an abstract one. He takes things for what they are rather than thinking further about possibilities. Rick is telling him Jimmy doesn't like me, help, in his mind. If Rick would have explained further, Raditch would have understood the gravity of the situation. Raditch should have let him speak more. But to that point, I say that basically there was more to it than that. I mean, when Rick tells Raditch about Jimmy, he doesn't say the magic words as he's bothering me, he's bullying me. He says he's bothering him, but bothering isn't always bullying. And he basically says he's not my friend and doesn't want to be my friend. And Raditch basically takes that as face value. Though, too. I mean, when you look at it, it's like, in the deleted scene also, is that Raditch says that making friends not part of curriculum to Snake. Basically, he still thinks that way even after the pain and feathers happen. I mean, Raj, I think, was kind of worried about himself and all that. I think he had an ego trip and all that. I've talked about a lot of these things in certain unpopular opinions videos, but anyway. And the person said, it's not that Raj and Simpson were bad principals. They weren't suited for it. They focused too much on how past principals did their jobs. They weren't open to new ideas. Snake basically punishes the school after Vegas night by taking away everything. And all that. Even Raj, he took away JT, Liberty, and their play. They didn't think further to realize that teens need socialization, clubs, extracurriculars to have a well-rounded environment. Now, here's the thing, though. Too, it's like, yeah, I did say that in an unpopular opinion, saying that maybe Simpson was hesitant to do these punishments and all that. I think maybe the school board put him up to it because, he was on thin ice, kind of, because of how he mistreated the Drew situation with Riley and the hazing. So basically, Simpson was probably thinking that he needed to do a good job and he needed to stay as principal and all that. I mean, he did terrible. But here's the thing, though. They did get their extracurriculars back within season 10. Basically, after Shantae puts post-it notes all over his car and all that, She just wants them to discuss it. So basically, Simpson said, "We'll make a peace bond, but the better you guys do in behaving yourselves, the more things will come back over time." And so basically, he's a man of his word. And after a few seasons without too much controversy, he basically lowers the well, he does the dress code kind of for the uniforms that were cool, but you can wear a normal shirt of your color. It's not like a uniform and anything, and but you still have to use your keychain, key cards and all that. So basically, yeah. And I mean, Raditch taking away the play. It wasn't that he was upset over this Rick situation that he took away the play. It's just the fact that when Rick had died, and they had decided to put on the play a week, well, the run through to the administration a week after his death. I mean, understandably, I know he was angry and all that, but of course, as Raditch said, as I think Raditch should have just taken the if he took the play away, he should have just easily said, "Well, we can't do it right now. Keep practicing, but we have to put it on hold." If he put it on hold, I think JT and Liberty would not have been too pissed at him. But maybe he keeps his job, maybe he doesn't. I think that he might not have kept his job anyway. So yeah, as they put, it's basically that they basically were under rules and all that. Maybe the school board might have felt guilty that their protocols may have caused Raditch and Simpson to basically avoid the students and all that. Maybe the school board had to pay a price to the Murrays, and basically they decided to dangle Raditch, all that. But of course, a lot of people also say that does Raditch have any redeeming qualities? As Gregdeck said, I feel like he was an asshole that never went back on his ways and will double down. I'm watching Fight for Your Right, and he's a douchebag. Well, some people talked about some stuff. One person said that he had redeeming qualities such as "It's a Swiss ball from Switzerland." Remember when they tried to do the Breakfast Club thing? It was kind of funny seeing Raditch out of his element and, being like a goofball and all that. But of course, I basically said in the post, I put redeeming qualities. Yeah, when he attended Craig's dad's funeral, aka Albert, and also Will's adoptive parents' funeral too. Tears Are Enough, Part 2. That was the season finale of Season 2. It's a good example that Raditch was not so bad, as he tells Craig he can take the rest of the year off without penalty. And also when Craig hallucinates about his dad and wreck stuff at the luau dance, Raditch tells the students to basically let him get it out of his system. And let's not forget International Day in his quote-unquote kilt. And also, as I said, it's a Swiss ball from Switzerland. And I said, that episode you talked about, Emma did have some blame because she misunderstood Raditch's nixing the GMO presentation as being petty and not the real cause, which is budgetary. But yeah, Raditch was not too pleased with Emma, especially her calling him out on the video system for tyranny. So what I was trying to say is something that I want to say now. So anyway, if you want to think about Daniel Raditch, is that basically he was a decent guy in junior high. He was a teacher that cared about his students. He actually tried his best to talk to the administration to let Spike, do her exams because, Spike was thrown out of school because she was pregnant and the parents thought that she would be a bad example. But then again, this is the 1980s when teen pregnancy was not really talked about much. So anyway, yeah. And then Raditch had his rivalry with Joey, although both of them basically were bad at each other. They did make a peace bond, I heard, about when Joey actually had his dysgraphia or something, his learning disability, and Raditch basically makes a peace bond. I think they basically understand each other better. But yeah, Joey had qualms about Raditch and all that. I mean, as a authority figure, yeah. But here's the thing. Is that when he became vice principal in Degrassi High, he was not principal. He was the on-screen authority figure, but he was not principal. He was the assistant. he was okay. He didn't blow off steam and all that. One of his poignant roles as vice principal was when Snake ended up seeing Claude's dead body from his suicide and basically told Raditch, and Raditch tries to calm Snake down. Snake says, he's dead. He said, who's dead? A boy in the bathroom. And then they run to the boy's bathroom. And then when there's a staff meeting and all that, Raditch comes into the class with Joanne. Who was that guy? I know he was part of the group with Tabby and Dwayne. I don't know his name. Eric, I would say, but I'm probably wrong. But yeah, and Joanne and Trish, the one with the mohawk hair, all that. And Joanne, of course, Ball saying that I should have helped him better. I knew he was bad. I had some bad things, but I should have done better. And Raditch says, I don't know what else he could have done, Joanne. And then he basically makes a monologue about how we feel overwhelmed sometimes and we think about killing ourselves, but we don't do it because if we do, everything is over and you can't come back from it. I think he was a caring person in that sense. I know the series finale, when Degrassi High has to be rebuilt and all that. Basically, he calmly explains to everyone, including Lucy, who would have been the next student body president, said that basically, it's an oven in the summer, it's a tundra in the winter. What are we going to do about it? We have to fix this. And Lucy says, why did you have these elections and all that if you knew the school was going to close down? And Raditch says, basically, we weren't given the final word on this. And besides, I'm going to a new school too, if that helps. But yeah, Raditch, I think, was okay and all that. And then he becomes the principal of Degrassi Community School, which is nice in a way. And we saw him in the series premiere, and basically him talking to Lucy about how Wheels wanted to apologize for his accident that got Lucy temporarily blinded and schools out and all that. Raditch seemed to be fine. I think season 1 he didn't really come into prominence as much, except for the one time that he basically lashed out at Spinner for not taking his ADD pills, saying that you miss one dosage. That's bad. And of course, we all know that Spinner gave the ADD pill to Jimmy to help Jimmy do well on the basketball team and beat Sean to the punch and all that. And of course, Spinner didn't want to out Jimmy because, all that. And, what would Raditch have done? Raditch probably would have went to the gym and basically warned Coach Armstrong and says that Jimmy needs to go to the hospital and all that. Of course, Jimmy gets thrown out the basketball team for his petty feud with Sean. So, yeah. Season 2, he was okay in a sense. But then Fight for Your Right came in. Basically, as said, that Emma was leading a group of protesters, such as Ashley, for a presentation on genetically modified foods. Raditch agrees that Emma's got a good presentation, but as he says, unfortunately, we don't have much room in the budget, and we should be lucky we have a calf, in the sense. And he says, sorry, blah, blah, blah. He's genuine. And of course, most kids don't know much about budgetary issues. So basically, yeah, you can't blame Emma for being pissed. But she could have been more understanding. So, of course, Emma passes out flyers. Raditch takes them away. Emma was going to concede, knowing that, Raditch is right. And then this stupid calf commercial happens. I don't know why. I don't know. Was Raditch behind the calf commercial or was it not? It was ambiguous, if you will. Of course, Raditch here's about a food fight, finds out that Emma kind of was in it, and then puts 2 and 2 together and says that Emma's flyers may have caused this, and suspends her for the rest of the day instead of just giving her detention. Emma's not too pleased. Raditch basically tells Snake to make sure Emma doesn't come to class and all that. Emma defies orders and then just goes outside and protests. Raditch is too angry about that, saying that, what are you doing, Emma? Even though she's doing off-school grounds, and basically gives her an ultimatum. You either apologize for everything you've caused tomorrow on the video system, or you're suspended for a while. And, Emma gives Raditch an apology on cue cards, and Raditch says, I'm glad we could come to a resolution, Emma. And she says, me too. Emma apologizes for starting the food fight. It was not on purpose. But she says that your opinions on genetically modified foods, I don't care if they're for or against it. But my right to protest was taken. And my right, I have a right to a voice. And basically, she then says that that if my freedoms cost me a suspension from school, I'll take it. And then Raditch basically is like looks protrude. So does Liberty. I mean, Raditch should never have pushed Liberty into this thing, but because it's like Liberty, all that. And I know some people are going to say that, oh, Raditch is white, Liberty's black, something fishy's going on here. I doubt it totally. But then Raditch is pissed off at Emma. And rightfully so. I mean, Raditch is basically angry that Emma had called him out and all that. I think in his mind, he thought that now that Emma has told everyone about Raditch's policies, that the students are going to try to take over the school, if you will, and call Raditch out on and stuff. So Raditch was just basically having an ego about it. And yeah, he had ego. Season 3, he got some students for Saturday detention. Now, putting them in detention is one thing, but he could have done it throughout the week. Did we really need that Breakfast Club send off? Basically put, it's like Hazel got in trouble for looking at illegal sites. Okay, yeah, she deserves it. Ellie got in trouble for cutting class, although it was Ellie who did it herself just to get research for her co-op job with the newspaper. Sean got in trouble for insulting Raditch. Of course, Raditch takes it the wrong way. And Jimmy with Toby got in trouble for trying to change grades on a school computer, which is true. You got to realize the fact that they all deserve to be punished and all that. But Snake basically thinks that Raditch is being overabundant and all that. But Raditch understands that their punishments and all that, they have to take a bit of a punishment. So yeah. Yeah. He just went downhill. And then season 4 was when a lot of people thought that basically he was worse and worse. He was regressing. I mean, letting Rick back in the school and all that. However, Raditch, I think, didn't have a choice. Because basically, without anyone pressing charges on Rick, the school board and the police couldn't do a thing about it and basically had to let Raditch make his own decision. I think if he had some kind of criminal charge on him, Raditch probably would have balked. Or maybe put Rick in with restrictions and all that. But to me, I feel like, CTV dropped the ball when they didn't. Now, full disclaimer is that, that this is coming from a Canadian. So basically, CTV is the Canadian broadcaster. The N is the U.S. broadcaster. So anyway, you got to realize something here. And what you also have to realize is that, that deleted scene when he talks to Alex and Marco, part of the student council, and he says that my hands are tied and all that, that could have just been easy peasy lemon squeezy. Because the viewer would have realized that Raditch had no choice. Instead, we just got everyone mad at him for letting that in. And basically, Raditch blows off at Emma for trying to butt into this whole Rick situation. Saying that it's not what his stupid crusades and all that. He still is pissed off about that fight for your right thing. I think he was cold towards her. But I also know that he had to keep it under wraps because Simpson would have blown his gasket. Because Raditch has a grudge against his stepdaughter. So thus, things happen. But anyway, Raditch looks perturbed when Emma did her orange ribbon campaign. But there wasn't much he could do about it. It was a silent protest. But then it started becoming violent towards Rick and all that. Emma stops everything and all that. And then, Raditch is not mentioned. But then Rick comes to Raditch with the point that Jimmy is bugging him, and why is Jimmy on the Wacky Brain team instead of Hannah Sinclair? Well, Hannah Sinclair got mono. So anyway, he tries to explain to Raditch everything, but Raditch takes it at face value as the person said, and basically tells Rick to get lost, saying, come back to me when something serious happens. And then when Rick gets painted and feathered, Raditch saw it because he had the link to the thing on his computer. And Raditch realizes that Rick was right the whole time. And so basically, he needed to do damage control and wanted answers about the paint and feathers. And then, of course, the other deleted scene I usually talk about is when he sees Spinner insulting Rick, throws Spinner on the bus, says that let's have a talk at 3:30 after school. And then he tells Rick, don't you have other clothes to put on? Anyway, I'd like to apologize for what happened to you. It should not have happened. Take the rest of the day off. Rick says, I gotta go to my locker. Raditch says, okay, but leave afterwards. And Simpson says, do you have a plan to fix this? And Raditch basically snaps at Simpson, saying that this is not preschool and not being and making friends is not part of the curriculum. So basically, yeah, Raditch may have his answers because he's got to talk to Spinner about it. And then, of course, you know, things happen that Rick goes bananas, thinks that Jimmy was behind the whole deception and shoots him, and then basically nearly kills Emma, but thankfully Sean saves the day. And then Raditch is basically asking Snake to look at the emails. Snake says, of course, because I guess because the police are asking for it. And basically he says, what about your stupid hindsight? Now it kicks in. And Raditch says, I have 700 students to worry about. How did I know one kid was going to overreact to some paint? And to that effect, I'm thinking, Raditch didn't know that Rick had a gun. If Raditch knew Rick had a gun, he would have been spooked. Would Rick have shot Raditch? Probably not. Probably not. I doubt he would have. So anyway, yeah, Snake and Raditch fight. Spike breaks it up because, you know, it's in front of Emma, and Raditch feels bad for Emma that she got caught in the crossfire and all that. At least she was genuine. He opens the school on the Monday, but that's for grief counselors and all that. That is a thing that usually happens at schools nowadays. So it's not as abnormal as you think it is. And then basically he's in Voices Carry, the two-parter, he's in the subplot. Basically telling Liberty and JT, we can't put this Dracula play on. Liberty says, but this will help the school and we can move on. I mean, I understand Raditch's motive because, you know, it's gory and all that. And given that Rick died the previous week, all that, and, you know, the school is basically being laughed at. I mean, the guy basically was trying to protect the school, but he was also trying to protect his own face because, after all, he has to deal with the fact that his school had a shooting. He may have screwed up with how Rick was treated, and also he has Snake breathing down his back at times too, because, you know, Snake's upset that Raditch didn't take Rick seriously, and he's also upset that Emma could have been hurt in this thing, and then things would have been a whole lot different. So, of course, Raditch is upset that Liberty and JT write a protest song against his policies, and as usual, he overreacts and basically throws him in detention, and then maybe a day or two later, he's axed. The school board did their investigation. They reassign him. Raditch is lucky not to be fired completely. So they give Raditch like a send-off and all that. That's the proper way of saying it. Hatzilakos is named principal. I don't know how she got the job. I mean, was she the vice principal in a sense? But anyway, yeah. So then what's left after that episode? Bark at the Moon, and we never got to see or hear about Raditch ever again. Except for me, of course. But yeah, I mean, Raditch went out with a decent bang. It could have been better. But to me, it's like, you know, Raditch could have saved. Do you think Raditch would have saved his job if he had realized that Spinner was part of this whole charade with Jay and Alex? Possibly, possibly not. But I think when it comes down to it, it's basically he ignored Rick, and that's a no-no. I feel for the guy. I really, really do. But I mean, it could have been better. My feeling is that he took the reassignment not too well and decided to go to California and do a TV show called Chop Cut Rebuilt. Yeah, I think Raditch would have quit. I think Raditch realized that he fucked up and he would have just decided to walk out on his own terms. Or maybe the reassignment was just basically what Japanese company executives do. They give people who mess up like Dante's Inferno of Punishments or something like that. It's like the creator of Game Boy when he did the Virtual Boy, because it was not so well received. The Japanese heads of Nintendo basically made Yokoi basically demonstrate the Virtual Boy and not do so well. And basically, it would be a punishment, and then he would work up the ladder. But Gunpei Yokoi left Game Boy. He didn't stick around for his punishment for the end of it. Yeah, it's like the Dante's Inferno punishments. But I think the school board may have thrown Raditch under the bus to save their own hides too, because after all, they were the ones who kind of fucked up too. But I mean, they didn't have any issues with Rick and all that, and the students are partially to blame too for pushing Rick over the edge. So is Raditch a villain? No. Is he an understanding principal? No. Is he a character that got burned by the writers who didn't know how to write for OGs? Yes. So, you want to talk about Raditch? I'll talk about Raditch. Let's see if someone else wants to talk about Raditch with this thing. Well, thank you, Degrassi Reddit, for all the stuff and basically reminding me that I should do a Raditch video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day.